It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And this week, Mike, our dreams have come true with a comic-accurate Wolverine costume.
That's right.
We're gonna talk about this and literally, quote unquote, broke the internet. No, it really wasn't that big. But like, I've never seen a lot of people like who aren't. I didn't assume we're comic book fans come out of the woodwork for this. So I think it's pretty fun. Superman Legacy is shaping up to be stacked full of comic book characters with some casting announcements.
Stacked, just like your Jenga blocks that you hope don't fall down, James Gunn.
Yeah, this is a I would say like a house of cards, right? If you will. If one of these don't work, the rest of them will not either. Ahsoka, the show, is next on our hype list. Mm-hmm. We finally got that trailer we talked about last week released, and more.
Yeah, I turned on Disney Plus the other day downstairs in the garage where I ride the exercise bike, or I guess elliptical if I want to sound cooler and less elderly, right?
Yeah, too many syllables. I don't like it.
And I realized I hadn't turned on Disney Plus down in the garage in a while, and then I thought about it and I was like, I only watch like two things on Disney Plus, and it's either a Marvel show or a Star Wars show. Mm-hmm. I'm not really engaging in anything else on this streaming app. I don't know if that's the plan, if that's the whole strategy. Obviously it is. That's why they make this stuff.
I think it's a big sign, Mike, that the streaming bubble has burst, if you will.
Yes, it's burbling, it's gurgling, it's about to bust.
It is belched all over the place, if you will. So
we got one more episode of Secret Invasion left, two. I thought there was only 6 episodes.
We're through 4 right now. 5 is this week. 5.
I thought we already watched 5.
Not that I know of.
I think I'm counting wrong in my head. Either way.
Yeah, there's 2 left. 5 is this week, and then 6 is the week after.
That makes a little bit more sense because I was wondering, how are they wrapping this up in one more episode?
Yeah.
So give us 2 more weeks, folks, and we will dive in and we'll talk all about it.
This is not reflective of the show, but I've not watched the past 2 episodes. And I'm really excited to binge watch them together and hopefully really come out feeling strong about 2 episodes at once, because remember I talked about, I'm like, these shows would be better if we could just binge them all together, right, at one thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna test it on episode 3 and 4 to see if my theory holds true, but we'll see. But Disney Plus, my I would say we watch it more than I would probably admit, but it's more background noise, just to add to your thing. Like, I don't know if you guys do background noise with Disney Plus more than any other app, but it's a lot of background noise for us in our house.
Well, I mean, speaking of streaming apps, if you needed Paramount Plus, that is going to be the streaming service that you need eventually to watch what you caught this weekend.
Yes, which I do have because I bought Walmart Plus last weekend. Remember we talked about it? Save on your Walmart Plus. So I have Walmart Plus, but I got, as I mentioned last week, we had early screening tickets to Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. And this is the 7th Mission Impossible movie out of all these. And I know we mentioned last week that you thought that maybe this was the last 2 movies for Mission Impossible. Mm-hmm. But apparently Tom Cruise says he's going to keep making them forever. That was just like, him like, we don't have a plan beyond these next 2 because, this week, if you were doing red carpets before Friday at midnight, the actors were on the red carpet. So Tom Cruise has been out there doing some Dead Reckoning stuff. I will say this is a long movie, Mike. I say it's a little almost 3 hours at the end of it. It's a stacked movie. It's got I like the Mission Impossible movies. I don't have anything against them. They're comparable to what I would call our American James Bond, right? Like since that's England. So Tom Cruise has carried this franchise for almost 30 years since the first one. But I think it's fun. I think I wouldn't say fun. It's a fun movie to watch in theaters. I agree with Tom Cruise. I don't think you have to watch it in theaters, but there are some pretty good action scenes in this. You have a lot of set pieces. a lot of spy thrillers. There's not a lot of as much mask taking off or double crossing as they have in other movies. So it's a pretty straightforward film. I would say probably on par with more of the better, Daniel Craig James Bond movies of recent era, right?
I mean, do you think, and I know you'd have to put a little time in between this to kind of make it work mentally, but let's throw yourself 20 years into the future. Do you think this movie is distinct enough to tell apart? Because when I think of all the Mission Impossible movies kind of like in a row, like I can't, like after you get past the second one, which is very stylistically different than all of the other ones, they all just kind of like blend together. Like the plots are all basically kind of not rogue. The same. Did
Ethan Hunt go rogue in this one? The answer is most likely yes.
Yeah. So I usually try to tell them apart either by the villain or the kind of action set piece, but I never really remember which one is like, okay, well, I know he's in like Dubai climbing that tower, but I don't remember who the villain in that one was or which one that was. I know Philip Seymour Hoffman. I know he's a villain in one of them, but I don't remember what the set piece is. So like I can never combine them together in my head.
No, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things because these aren't cranked out every like 2 years, right? Like there's like usually 5 or 6 years between them, some of these. Intentionally, I think you're right. One is very much very young Tom Cruise. Right? You usually tell by Tom Cruise's hairstyle. Which hair did he have in that movie, Mike? Two is obviously the longer hair. He climbs the rock and stuff like that. So beyond that, I think this is probably one of the more distinguishable ones, simply because it does have a villain. A very much a character is the villain, and there's the idea of this, the story that takes obviously 2 movies to get across is very much of the time, and I think it will stand apart. However, will that be relevant in 20 years? I think more than the other ones. I agree. Do you remember when I think we talked about this, like when Jeremy Renner was supposed to take over for Tom Cruise in these movies, and they just wrote him out. But like I remember obviously the last movie with Henry Cavill, right? Because he does the shirt cocking thing. Did you ever watch that one?
I saw that one. I've seen all of them, but I don't think I've caught any of them in the movie theaters in a long time.
The last one I just remember mostly because of the inset piece with the hook to the face, if you will. I'm like, oh, that's a pretty gruesome movie. But this one is distinguishable enough. It actually pares down, I would say, the cast quite a bit. It's very focused on people we're familiar with. The only new character to this, I would say the villain's new, but you'll see why. And then also Haley Atwell as
I thought she might have been new. I couldn't remember because there's always some sort of like femme fatale in every movie, and sometimes they come back. I feel like
well, if you're a love interest for Tom Cruise in these movies, they kill you off. They're more likely to kill you than let you kiss Tom Cruise on these films if they never get that close. But
I do also get this movie confused with a lot of the modern Daniel Craig James Bonds too, and even maybe sometimes Fast and the Furious, only because like they all have big set pieces. There's almost always a car chase in a European city, and like it doesn't matter.
Dude.
It does.
Oh my God,
it's Paris, France. Like it just doesn't. Some like indistinct, like there's tight corners and alleyways, and they have to get through them really fast.
So they are in Italy doing a car chase in this movie, Mike, and I'm pretty sure. Remember the scene in Fast 10 where the ball rolls down the bomb rolls down the hill? I'm pretty sure it's that exact same place with the curved steps. But the difference is the cars in this were real.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, I don't think there's any CG highlights on reflections going on there.
Yeah, no, the cars were real in this, and what I like about the action set pieces in these Mission Impossible movies, much like Daniel Craig's Bond movies, you can follow the action and you usually know what's going on and where things are, right? And they look good, and I give them credit for that. I would say there are some slower parts in this movie. It's fairly long, but it's still pretty fun to watch, and if you need a good summer action movie, again, Tom Cruise is going to deliver, right? Top Gun Maverick, he delivered. This one, I think he delivered. I think he's done a great job. I do wish they would have given it a different name, and I think I said that last week, right? Like Dead Reckoning Part 1, Dead Reckoning Part 2. I don't like the parts. Just call this one Dead Reckoning and call the next one something else. right?
Well,
Kinda
they still could. I guess it's possible they could pivot.
Exactly. It's like Avengers Infinity War and Endgame are one movie, right, when you put them together.
Yeah.
But, like, there's still different things. I think they could have done that with this and probably, done better, because it does end. It ends in a good place, but also, like, a place you're like, okay, there's obviously more. But so, yeah, absolutely. If anyone's wanting to go see something this month in theaters, I don't know what else is coming out this month. This is a pretty good
Barbie.
Well,
and
right,
then Oppenheimer.
That's
the
right.
big back-to-backs.
Barbenheimer, obviously. I'm sorry. If you're not into either one of those, and you want to, if you're looking for an action movie, take your dad to, right? This is definitely up that alley. But yeah, I forgot about Barbie, Oppenheimer, and what's the other one? Haunted Mansion. If you got kids as well, because I wouldn't put kids in Barbie, probably based on what I've seen from the trailers. Now they might enjoy it. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it doesn't look like focused on like a Disney property movie like Haunted Mansion is. Are you familiar with the Haunted Mansion ride, by the way, before I forget this?
Yeah.
My wife got the popcorn vessel from Cinemark this week, and it's the crystal ball, the lady in the crystal ball.
Oh.
So you open the top of it up, and it lights up, and you put the popcorn in. She actually went specifically to the theater to get that after we saw the movie, because they didn't have it that day. So you got a whole collection. But anyway, Dead Reckoning Part 1, true Mission Impossible form, probably up there, one of the better ones, at the end of the day, based on how clear, concise, and like consistent this one is. And I think people will be able to pick it out of a lineup later in history, like you said, Mike. But you got to dive into some historical shows that are also historical because they're off the air, but also take place in a different time period. So tell me what you did here with these crazy people.
Yeah, I'll hit these up real quick, because we got a stacked show this week. I feel we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about, but I feel like I just put in the effort and the work to binge all of the seasons of Mad Men just recently. We got it. I think we finished it in maybe under like 4 weeks. So it's always like a daunting task to binge like a drama, right? Especially when there's 6, 7 seasons. I don't remember.
More than
exactly.
5. Greater than
we watched
5. Yeah.
we watched them all at once, and it was pretty intense, but it's a cool show. I was mostly fascinated because the series starts in 1960 and it ends in 1970, so you kind of get to see this entire decade transpire like through the lives of these characters, and they do like a really good job at kind of subtly changing the world around these folks, where they're not like pointing it out. It's not like somebody walks into the office one day and they're wearing like a like a 70s like hippie get up, and somebody's like, hey, what are you wearing? That's so weird and goofy and strange.
It's the 70s, man. Get with the time.
Yeah, it's just like, it's all very organic, just like how it would happen in your real life. So it was fun being able to kind of see all that happen in a binge model, right? They're all very uptight, very like leaving the 50s at the beginning, and then it's a whole new era for everyone involved by the end. So if you have AMC Plus, or I don't know, maybe you have these on DVDs, I don't know your life, I would recommend.
When did the show end? Mad Men,
I want to say 2015 is when everything wrapped up.
07 to 15. So wow, I mean, good Lord.
Yeah, if I had to tie it back,
damn.
Yeah, if I had to tie it back to our show here, one of the main characters, Sterling, I believe, is the actor that at least at one point in time I think played Tony Stark's dad. At least that's how I reacted when I first started the show. But then after 7 seasons, that guy who played Tony Stark's dad, that's actually Sterling from Mad Men. My perspective has changed on the actor.
Not the younger one, John Slattery, right, from Iron Man 2.
Doesn't the actor that changed his dad change?
Yeah, well, it depends on how old he is. The younger dad is Dominic Cooper. Right, and then his older dad that they use in Iron Man 2 and Endgame is John Slattery. But you're right, because when I think of him, I'm like, oh, he was sitting in that 1970s looking world Stark trade or Stark World what's it called, World Fair kind of thing. I'm like, oh, I imagine him in Mad Men as well, in the same outfit. He just looks like a advertising executive from the 60s.
Yeah, some people just look like they belong in a different decade, to no fault of their own. But yeah, Mad Men, it was quite a journey So go check that out. Good show.
It's fun. Well, I was going to add to that. I went to one of my degrees is in advertising, and everyone's like, "You should watch this. You should watch this." And I've never watched it, and I'm just scared to. I'm like, I'm very scared to watch it, Mike. I'm like,
yeah. The creator of the show has a passion for advertising. I don't know if they've worked in it, but they do get into a lot of the minutia of client relationships and pitches and stuff. So, like, I'm sure if you were working in the advertising industry, like, hell, you'd be like in your 90s now.
Yeah.
You know, if you worked in it back then in the day, you might be like, hey, that's not exactly how are things done. Obviously, it's dramatized, everything's heightened, but everything's so much different now. Like, and they even go through that in the show. Like, the industry changes so much by the time 1970 rolls around. I mean, like, TV advertising was like just a thing that they started to do like in season 2 of the show. So, but it's fun. It's interesting. Go give Mad Men a watch. It's a little bit of a slow burn. You're not getting like big reveals and revelations at the end of every episode. It's a bit of a thinking man's type of show. But
if you're not a thinking person, get the hell out of here. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, and if you're not a thinking person, if you want to escape maybe into another dimension,
Ooh.
I finally picked up a MetaQuest 2, a VR headset. I found one used online because VR is like a very polarizing experience. I think some people love it. Some people don't care so much about it, don't need it in their lives. So if you're looking to try out a headset, just go on like OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace. There's a really good chance that somebody is selling one because they thought it was going to be something, and then they didn't end up vibing with it.
Yeah, I don't think it speaks to the future of the device. Some people, they're hooked on like one thing, right, or two things on it, and they burn themselves out. Or like, hey, I got to play Beat Saber with my kids, and the kids ended up getting a gaming computer or something later, and they never used it. So absolutely, Mike knows this. I was giving him hell before we started. I'm like, you're finally getting on the technology I've had for several years. But you brought up a point. We both had PlayStation VRs. We both dabbled in the more expensive version for a little bit. That was tethered. So now you're in like the free form mode of it.
Yeah, and it's a fun jump in quality, right? That classic PlayStation VR still had kind of like screen dooring on the displays. The headset was a little heavy. It had a cord coming off of it. They kind of cobbled it together with those PlayStation Move controllers. So this is finally a whole experience coalescing into one just a user experience, to use the word experience again. That's the best way to describe VR, I suppose. But it was fun though. But at the same time, it almost like, since what it's trying to do is trying to replicate reality or replicate existence, like the second I put it on, I was like, this is cool, but like there's just a part of me that's like insatiable when it comes to VR. It's like, I want more. I want more. Like, I'm almost like, I want these displays to be even better. I want them to be like faster. I want everything to be like, you told me I can turn finger tracking on with this thing, so I'm going to give that a try. But it's like, I want to throw the controllers away. I don't want them anymore. So it's just like, there's this part of me that's like, when you're playing like a video game, it's purely like entertainment, right? Like when you're like watching a TV show or, even a movie, right? But like with VR, you're just like craving, like, just give me another reality. Let me jack into the Matrix already. So like, it's a weird feeling that I don't get when I interface with other technology. But we talk when the Vision Pro, Apple's AR headset, was announced, and we talked about it on the show a little bit. We were really excited for like the whole pass-through camera thing, and the MetaQuest 2 has like a very like janky, low resolution black and white pass-through camera.
It just turns on the room scanners pretty much to let you walk through a low-res black and white screen.
Yeah, but even that is like, to me, that's the single coolest thing about this headset, which is crazy because it's mostly like a safety convenience feature that they added to it.
And it wasn't even part of wasn't even part of the initial launch. Like, now you can turn it on by double tapping your headset. And now originally it was just like, so you didn't bump into a wall and break it.
Yeah. But it's like, it's just so cool to have this headset on, turn on these like, weird pass through sensors, and then you just get to, yeah, I'm experiencing my reality in like pixelated black and white, but still that's cool. That's like putting like a cool filter on your world. So then like it kind of clicked, and I go, oh, I got it. That's why when people are putting on this Vision Pro and they're seeing this full color, accurate pass through version of their world, and they're putting like heads up displays, overlays on it, it just feels really, really cool. Like I even did that a little bit with the pass through camera, and I kind of just like put up like the web browser and stuff when I was like sitting at my desk, and I was like, oh, I get it, right?
Yeah.
Like I see how like if we can get to a point to where whatever headset that you put on is just incredibly light, you know, maybe like, yeah, they might look like welding goggles at some point, which is still really small, but you got to block out the rest of the light around you still, right? I could still see that just being like super like freaking cool. Like, so I don't know. That's just my way of saying, like, I think I get it. I think augmenting your reality, at least for me, is so much cooler than just jumping into a fully fictionalized world. You know,
and I think the ability to do both is right. Is the key, right? A mixed reality headset where you can have augmented, or hey, you want to jump into Beat Saber, but you don't want to be distracted by things around you. Turn on the background, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we talked about that, but I agree with you that the pass through, and we even chatted offline earlier this week because I've been doing VR racing games, and I'm like, the cool part would be to see my hands on the steering wheel rather than the video game hands, if you will. And I'm like, oh, wait till it can see my actual arms gripping the wheel, and then I'm controlling my hands in this VR space along the way.
Yeah. Because like when you're playing a video game, it's a one-to-one experience. You're adding inputs to a controller, and it's playing out on the screen in front of you. The second you put a VR headset on, there are so many inputs and outputs happening at once. So like you just realize, oh, I can see how this changes in the future. I could see them improving the display, improving the accuracy, like improving like finger tracking, tweaking the weight, the strap, the battery life, the compute. There's just so many things that are still on the horizon for this type of device that just like it's pretty exciting.
Well, like you mentioned earlier, smartphones as we know them now are not how smartphones started. Remember how bulky those things were in like the early 2000s? They ran Windows like 98 on them or something like that, like a custom edition of Windows 98. And you can play that stuff. So I think headsets have a long way to come. And what's cool about the Quest 2s, Quest Pros, and all these other things, right? You know, they're always adding features to them. The finger tracking wasn't native when it started. That's new. The pass-through, that's new. The ability to plug into something else and use it as the rendering engine, because you technically are running like 2K per eye. So 4K overall, it's still, there's opportunity to, like you mentioned, have those better screens and better reactions. I can't sell. It's hard for me to sell this to people who I'm like, do you have a reason to do it? And Mike mentioned games. It's not just games. It's experiences, or like using the web browser, or using like they have the calm / meditation apps you can use to like really isolate yourself from your surroundings and use those effectively. I think that's really fun as well. So like there are more uses than just games. And I think by, obviously they sold them first as gaming machines, but as Apple has said, they didn't mention games once in their presentation on the Vision Pro. The Quest has an uphill battle to separate itself from only gaming and also start selling the experiences of that, like pulling up 3 monitors and working, or, like you mentioned, Mike, like, there's you didn't mention this, but there's an app called Big Screen, and it's essentially a movie theater inside, and you can go watch, anything, local media files, network media files, Plex stuff, if you wanted to, in there. Now, mind you, it's not as fun when you're by yourself, and you in our situations, right, our significant others are like in the same room, and they're like, hey, what the hell are you doing escaping from us? That's the thing I get. I'm like I'm gonna be in the VR headset just for a little bit. My wife's like, that's fine, but like I couldn't do that like all the time, right? Like that's the draw. How do you make this a social experience? And I suggested, Mike, we try a game called Demio, which allows us to play tabletop games together in a virtual space, but across the country, which I think is going to be fun. But I agree, there's still more to come, and I'm glad the companies, this is not the finality here, and they are investing in these technologies going forward for those. But I think the selling experiences / apps other than games is going to be the uphill battle for everybody going forward.
Yeah, but speaking of dated technology
and games,
yes, which Chris has had for a while, I finally got a hold of a Nintendo Switch. Woo! And of course, the first game I'm going to play is Breath of the Wild, which is a couple years old now. But, I was around, I was online, I stayed connected to the video game news and industry. And I know that game was a huge win for Nintendo and a big game changer for Zelda.
The thing is, Mike told me ahead of time he was looking for, because Prime Week. If anybody got any cool Prime deals, let us know. I'm excited. But he said he was looking for a deal, and I was able, when I was in Best Buy last week buying a hard drive for my computer, I saw a huge stack of the was it Tears of the Kingdom Switches. I'm like, if you're gonna get a deal on a Switch, get the Tears of the Kingdom Switch, Mike. And you got one of the coolest looking Switches out there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's got like the gold like Joy-Cons and like Zelda stuff on it, so it's pretty clutch. It looks pretty cool. I've been playing Breath of the Wild, and I'm not like a hardcore like Zelda fan, but I have played, different types of Zeldas over the years. So I'm familiar with like, the 3D versions, the top-down versions, all of the different types of fanfare for the game. So playing Breath of the Wild has been really fun just because, it's interesting to see them change the formula, since the game, I feel like, they could have made the exact same game as like Twilight Princess or Ocarina of Time, right? But just, updated like the dungeons and the story and everything. But like, no, we're going to do something a little bit different. So it's cool, like, having destructible weapons, right? So you don't feel like you have to keep to the same play style. So that's been really fun. It's an open world. So like I've already had the experience of like, oh, maybe I can cross this bridge. It's like, nope, there's these two giant lizards that can run faster than me. And even if I try to run away, they'll still kill me, which is fun. The cool kind of, I guess, like magic when it comes to using like the magnetism or the time stopping or like the ice freezing. I still have one more to get, so I don't know what the last thing is really cool. And I think all the little things are really fun. Like when there's like an enemy out in the open world and you go fight them, you hit them a couple of times and they fall over and they drop their weapon. And so instead of like fighting back at you right away, they'll like run around you to the little campfire and they'll grab a spear that they have that's just kind of like sticking up in the dirt because they know before they interact with me, they have to get a weapon. So I just think that's really cool. It's like it's almost like they're leveraging it's like, hey, we're going to like not really make the most beautiful fidelity looking game. It still looks like a cartoon, but we're really going to leverage the power that we have here in the Switch. The exploration factor is really, really fun. It's kind of like I'm playing a FromSoft, kind of like Dark Souls, Elden Ring style game, but it's just a lot less stressful because everything's just a little bit more cheerful. So that's been kind of a nice change of pace where I don't have to freak out as much when I'm just like entering a dungeon or turning around a dark corner, right? But Chris, I told you this already, so I'll let the audience know. It is absolutely infuriating picking up a Switch because, as you told me and I have forgotten, Nintendo just does not care that Xbox and PlayStation have programmed our brains to understand the 4-button layout with your right hand, right? The A, B, X, Y, triangle, X, circle, box, right? They might be different letters in different shapes, but at least on Xbox and PlayStations, the locations of the buttons, we've come to a clear decision as society that the bottom button will be your action button, right? The square button could possibly be your attack button. The circle button is usually some sort of like extra movement button, and that top button could be roll of the dice, right? Because it's at the top, not as important. You don't get into it as much. Nintendo, it just throws up the middle finger and goes like, no, far right button, action button. The most used button, the bottom button, that's going to be your back cancel button. Yep. And so I have to rewire it. Because and that's the thing that's a little frustrating because like every encounter that I get into, I get a little stressed out because I can't function properly. I can't make Link do exactly what my brain wants him to do. And I know it's going to get even worse, so I hope my brain adapts because I've seen like the high-end gameplay of this game when people get towards the end game and they're chaining together these combos of like the magical attacks and stuff like that, and it's just like I can barely chain anything together.
It's
let
like
alone
it's like learning a new language, right? Like you're familiar with what you're doing, but not quite sure how it's working with your hands.
It's like the equivalent of like somebody changed the shortcut keys on you, like going from Mac to PC.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what it feels like. So I'm sticking to it. I'm going to learn it. I'm going to figure it out because I'm going to play Tears of the Kingdom after this. But yes, that's my trifecta of Mad Men, MetaQuest 2, Breath of the Wild, all things that have been out for a while that I've finally gotten around to.
And that's perfectly fine. I will also say one of the things I'm trying to get, if anyone can help me convince Mike to get Mario Kart, obviously for the Switch. I would also recommend, if you've not, Mike, the Switch Online subscription service, which is, I think you might get a free month or two when you buy your Switch. They offer emulation for Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and some other games as well. Genesis. If you pay for the higher end, you get 64 games and some other things. But if you're looking to play those old games, they let you just play them right then and there on the Switch with your internet connection. So I think that's a fun thing, even though there was a survey this week that said like 93% of all games made before the year 2000 are not available anywhere, which is really, really disappointing, but also makes me feel okay with emulation, Mike, at this point in my life. But yeah, glad we could get there. And really, if only the Switch had an M. Like, we have like Mission Impossible, Mad Men, MetaQuest. We lost our fourth M there, but we'll
wait. Who's like the creative guy that oversees Zelda? Isn't his name with an M?
I thought
or am I making that
Is it the
up?
Mario? Is it the Mario guy?
I'm gonna do a quick Google.
Who Miyamoto
created Zelda?
Is it Miyamoto?
Shigeru Miyamoto. Yeah, I should have just put Miyamoto.
There it is. Yeah. The Nintendo people. But yeah, that's cool. All right, so half hour in, let's jump into our first topic. And this is not a fun topic either. This is something that's we're gonna see some long-term effects of this. Probably, I would say even more so, Mike, than maybe COVID shutdowns, even a couple years ago. Because now, as of Friday at midnight, and that's why I said this earlier, SAG-AFTRA, which is the Actors Guild and Union, have voted to and acted upon a strike for all the actors who are part of SAG-AFTRA, essentially shutting down all productions that involve U.S. members of SAG-AFTRA. And I'm not going to go through this list. Every production that has an actor in it is shut down. There's no need for me to go through everything. But for people who are interested, movies in production such as Deadpool, movies that are in pre-production such as Fantastic Four, since they can no longer do cast searching. The Oppenheimer red carpet, the actors left the red carpet in solidarity at exactly midnight, I believe, Pacific time. SDCC panels are canceled all around from actors. So this is not just, hey, the movies aren't being made. They can't do press junkets. They can't do anything else. This is very far and wide reaching, other than just shutting down actual productions at this time.
And just to be clear, there's just this systemic problem in Hollywood right now, and not just in Hollywood too. Even UPS workers are flirting with a possible strike right now. I don't know exactly where that is. So we're just getting to the point where the top of our society is just raking in more, leaving the bottom, or at least, and even when you say like bottom, right? Not even necessarily like middle class, even worse. It's just getting worse and worse people. So you bring people to the edge, and they're going to start fighting back with their collective action, and I think that's great. My wife is boots on the ground with the Writers Guild, and she said the energy was electric on Friday, because Friday was the first day where outside of studios, SAG and the WGA were united together out there on the sidewalks. She said it was intense, a lot of energy, a lot of support, a lot of passion. And the thing about the writer's strike is that we weren't going to see the effects immediately right away, like on your television, right? The stuff gets written ahead of time a lot. And sorry, there's a car line.
I can hear it. Yeah. But go on, continue. It's fine. You're good.
Well, let's wait a second, because I can't think because it's right out there.
Mike's doing this. I'm just going to say there are like as Mike was saying, there are, this is writer strike is the back end. This is the engine running things, right? And while it can shut down for a little bit, the car can still have momentum, if you will, for an analogy.
Wow,
So,
right there in the car.
Exactly.
This is ironic because this is what you do on the picket line to show support when you drive by in your car.
You honk.
You honk on the horn. But what I was trying to say, the Writers Guild, we weren't going to see the effects on your TV screen for quite a while because writing the script is like one of the first things that happens in the production pipeline. So you could theoretically, like we saw a couple weeks ago, you could be out there filming your movie, directing it, going through post-production, right? But like you were saying, Chris, once the actors go on strike, like not only can you not direct things anymore, right? You can't promote finished things already, but also the actors are the face of the thing literally that's being made, right? Like they are the front facing portion of media to the audience, and they're the ones, like, you can't ignore the message of an actor. Even when they're not advocating for themselves, they could be advocating for a charity or for a social movement or something like that. So this is really going to change the tone of what's happening out here in Hollywood for sure. So hopefully this shakes things up a little bit, gets the negotiatings moving, gets the studios from stopping dragging their feet.
And I think if they do show more solidarity between the Actors Guild and the Writers Guild, they could probably solve a lot of it more at the same time, right? Like, hey, come together, we work together and get this solved at the same time, because it just needs to happen. It needs to be solved in the favor of the people working. I will say this is for those who may not know, this is the first time two guilds have been on strike since 1960. There was a strike back then. I think the Writers Guild was like 120 days back then, and the Actors Guild was much shorter. And you wonder why the Actors Guild was much shorter, is because they can't do anything. Like, they are literally I wouldn't say hemorrhaging money, but nothing future is getting done at this time.
And studios are being they'll try to say things like, oh, the actors or the writers are being unreasonable and asking for too much money, and then in the same sentence they'll say like, oh, we want to own the digital likeness of your face as an extra forever, in perpetuity, for all time, for a one-time cash payment of, I'm sure, only a couple $100. So it's like they're intentionally trying to like rattle the cages, because also at the same time, like over here being a little bit more pragmatic, it's just like, if they're a background extra, you don't need the likeness of your face. Just have somebody make invent a human face and put it on a 3D model. Like, this is the dumbest thing, the idea you've ever had. What a waste of money. Right. Like, it's just so stupid. Like, if you're gonna make a digital background extra, do what they've already been doing. Just make a fake person.
Yeah, and then at the same time, we are in a lot of this. Both of them kind of boil down to the idea of digital streaming numbers, right? The idea of data. What is the data on a streaming service? And this is why we mentioned earlier why I think the streaming bubble has burst. They are not making money off streaming services, and they are not paying people for streaming services. And I think we've come to a juncture quicker than most people anticipated of what are we going to do with this, and what are the actual numbers, and the how do we, if people deserve to be paid for their work in streaming in actuality numbers, right? Not just guesstimates that they're giving out, because we know, Mike, we are tech people. We understand how technology works. They have the exact number of streams for every one of these media things, and they're not sharing them. And that is, I wouldn't say the core of this, but one of the core pillars of this whole argument. Like, we need to know what those numbers are so we can get paid appropriately, and you need to stop obfuscating all this data. So I am, while there are some actors who make millions of dollars per thing, this affects all actors, not just those. So that is why I lean into, I am for the actors, I am for the writers being compensated appropriately. One thing I did note, I saw, and this is just for people who may not be, in the know, an actor or a writer / normal actor's usual salary is about $65,000 to $70,000 a year, right? Just average, not the high end actors, right?
Yeah,
Writers.
and another important stat too is, in order to qualify for SAG healthcare, you have to work X number of hours in a given year, and I don't remember exactly what that hour amount is, but it's less than full time. 40 hours a week every week, right? So you have to reach this very minimum threshold just to get health insurance, and 87% of the Screen Actors Guild do not qualify for that. So that just it just goes to show you, it's a big industry, and there's a couple people at the top with a lot of money, but most people they're struggling.
Well, I would say the point is $65,000 to $70,000 a year, and we like certain properties here, but we are no shills by any means. Bob Iger makes that in a day. Right, that is his daily salary. What these people are making in a year, I absolutely believe the heads. The investors, the leaders can be brought down a notch and share these funds with the people who are actually doing the work rather than those sitting at the top. Not saying they're not doing anything by any means. You need someone competent to lead a company right without leading it into the ground. But the disparity between wages on this and this whole thing is just disgusting at the end of the day. And I don't have a direct connection like you do this, but I still stand with the actors and writers through what I can do. But at the other end of this, just so anyone knows, especially the United Kingdom projects, they have different unions and rules. So we're going to still hear possibly talk about production still in works, but that doesn't mean they're going against SAG-AFTRA. They're just different. Different countries have different regulations on unions and how they operate.
Yeah.
So
and also some actors will be under contractual obligations to fulfill things like maybe even like promotion, right? So if you're maybe particularly on the hook to, I don't know, like sponsor something or something like that, you are allowed to kind of finish that in a way. So there will be some things like lingering here and there, but for the most part, you don't want to be a scab for sure. So the strike continues,
and expect more and more delays, and probably one of the wimpiest San Diego Comic-Cons in history in terms of movie studios.
You're just gonna have to read comic books, people.
You're gonna have comic books at a Comic-Con. How dare they? Anyway, all right, back to our streaming services, Mike. Ahsoka, the upcoming live-action show featuring Ahsoka Tano from the Clone Wars, and written and directed by Dave Filoni, is coming to Disney Plus next month. And the new trailer that was finally released after we talked about being delayed. Boy, this was an exciting trailer, Mike, for me. My wife, who's not seen Rebels and probably maybe not all of Clone Wars, she was like, this is like the most hyped thing I've seen for a Star Wars show in a while. Like, she is down to watch this show, and I'm like, you don't even know the half of it. Like, you don't even know who this purple-haired lady is in this trailer. But it's very much a lot of Rebels connections here, right? The actors from Rebels, the setting off on their journeys. We got to see, again, Mike, some red lightsabers, some orange lightsabers. It's going to be some pretty good action scenes. And, of course, everyone, the first official look at Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn, who just looks like a blue Elon Musk at this point in this shot. But, we'll see him more in the show. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, it was a hype trailer, coming from me, another person like your wife who's not really familiar with the Rebels lore, even though I attempted to find some YouTube videos a while ago that explained it, but nobody out there has really made a holistic recap, at least when I checked a while ago, on all of the Rebels content, because I don't have the time to watch all that. Yeah. But the trailer was hyped. It felt more like leaning towards like cinematic storytelling and action, and we're gonna tell a compelling story, right? And less maybe some of the other things that I don't know. When I think back of Mandalorian season 2, I know we've been divorced of it for a couple months now.
You mean 3?
It just season 3. It was not exciting to me. I never got excited. There were some interesting things that happened every now and then, but I would not use the word excitement to describe that season. And after watching this trailer, and of course it's a trailer, it's meant to make you excited, just felt like I feel like there's something extra happening here, and that's what our theory was, right? For that last season of Mando. It's because Filoni was not there. He was busy working on this, and it looks exciting.
I think the other thing is, with The Mandalorian season 3, the focus focus wasn't really anywhere, right? Like, what were they really doing? Were they trying to restore Mandalore? Were they trying to go after Moff Gideon? What was it, right? We didn't really get a villain until the end, right? At the end. And this is very much like, we are going after Thrawn. We have a focus. This is what we're doing. And we're going to encounter some people, we have to fight along the way. And I think that would look really fun for this. So I'm excited to watch it. It looks like, even the effects, the whole look and feel of this is a little higher polished. I don't know. It just feels a little higher polished. And maybe it's because, Filoni comes from an animated background. He knows what he wants it to look like in the final version to make it come to life. Even the Rebels mural is like almost 1-for-1 from that.
And who knows, maybe also I'm not saying the other Star Wars shows haven't had full buy-in, but maybe there's just a little bit more attention being paid to this since it is going to kind of culminate in a feature film, right? But either way, this was a lot more exciting. There's like most things, when a trailer comes out, there was like a poster for it. The poster for this was like weird. It was like Ahsoka kind of like off-center, just holding a lightsaber. I was like, what's going on here? So I'm glad the trailer wasn't really representative.
I'm like, to me, I'm like, is there like another 4 posters? Are we supposed to put all 4 posters together, kind of thing, to make like the Rebels? But it's whatever it is. I think it looks good. I'm very excited. We are getting a double feature debut on August 23rd, Mike. By the way, I forgot to mention that and put that in the notes here. But it's a double feature, and it says in the trailer, first 2 episodes on August 23rd. So I think that's pretty exciting. So if you don't have Disney Plus or you've unsubscribed because you're taking a break, next month's going to be the month to come back for it, I think, to catch that. Deadpool 3 was filming wholeheartedly this week, and we got our first official look at Hugh Jackman in his, I would say, X-Men the Animated Series costume, like the most comic book accurate costume you could put on Hugh Jackman. The only difference is the anime version has no sleeves, and this one has sleeves for his arms. But by God, we get a look at him in this yellow and blue suit. And the picture I've included includes him fighting Deadpool in looks like a quarry, rock place. But he's got his claws. They even put the claws on him. They're not just CG claws, Mike. They're actually fighting with claws on his stuff and the swords.
Yeah. It was a pretty fun and exciting day when this dropped, right? Because we got that kind of first image of just the two of them walking side by side towards the camera. And then some of the other set photos started to come out where you got to see them fighting, doing action choreography. There's one where like he's holding like Deadpool's arm or something. So you know that like they're just like not getting along, which is exactly what you want. I mean, the first thing that I thought of, Chris, when I saw that suit, and I'm sure you weren't far off either, was that mythic photo that we have from the Bryan Singer X-Men days of that unused yellow Wolverine costume just in that metal briefcase.
That it would be a James Mangold The Wolverine movie, because that's from the end of The Wolverine when he gets on the airplane and they give him the briefcase from that. So I'm just wiping Bryan Singer's name from this. I give credit to James Mangold, but exactly. So like, is there a mask in this movie and we're just not seeing it here? Right?
Yeah. Well, I've seen a lot of photoshops of people taking that briefcase mask, because it's a pretty full-on shot, and then photoshopping out of Hugh Jackman, and I don't think that a literal interpretation works for me. Like the big fins coming off of the face, just within kind of like this realistic environment, looks a little weird. Like I think maybe you got to tailor down the fins a little bit, push them back a little bit more, because it looks like it almost kind of looks like when somebody's kind of like ears are kind of like fanned out, and it looks like they kind of have big ears, and then you want them a little bit more streamlined to the side of the face, more traditionally.
I think if you put the mask on, it would pull itself back around his head, right? When it actually is, like, if you just Photoshop that onto somebody, it's gonna look weird. It's gonna look like, well, I would say kind of almost, really like the Silver Samurai from the comic book mask, like this really wide, but like that works in comic books. That doesn't work in real life, But Marvel has a really, really good track record of making costumes work in real life. So I if they're gonna put a mask on, I think it'll be more of this yellow and blue rather than that one, and fit a little better. I've included a second shot of him with bullet holes and a sword stabbed through him as well, if you want to take a look at that. I think so. Obviously, he gets stabbed at one point. And that's Ryan Reynolds' kids on set that day. He was talking to him. But one of the cool parts about this is if you go, look, we have some aerial shots of the quote unquote quarry they're fighting in, and what we see here is the 20th Century Fox logo in the ground, broken up, and people are like, oh. There's rumors that, the TVA is part of this, right? With Owen Wilson's Mobius in this. Mm-hmm. Is this the Void from Loki? Like, where everything goes when they cull a universe? Is this that same place that they're fighting here? Where they've been culled? Yeah. Maybe they've both been culled because of, something Deadpool was doing, so they have to fight a little bit for their friends and then go on an adventure to save themselves a little bit?
Yeah. Hell, I think it's cool that they built it. It's a practical thing that they can actually go up and touch, and maybe Deadpool is like casually like hanging out on with his feet dangling off. I just think that's really rad. And and also it tells you that they're going an extra level, right? It's not just the multiverseness of different versions that we've seen quite a few times now in comic book adaptations of things colliding together, but also they're going the meta level that She-Hulk went, where it's like, oh no, this actually is a TV show. It's not just another universe. So I think I think we got a lot to look forward to here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems to be, I would say, love and care is the best way I can phrase it without saying that. But like, they're going the extra mile rather than just, like you mentioned, filming it on a green screen. And I would say my biggest complaint about the end of Deadpool 1 is they're on that boat, but like most of that's green screen at the end of the day. So very excited to see them do this. The last bit of news is Josh Brolin is not returning as Cable in Deadpool 3, but he is rumored to return to this role in other MCU projects, more kind of leaning towards maybe Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars, and making an appearance. I think that's fine. I have no problem with Josh Brolin as Cable. The interpretation is wrong because he's not like the son of Cyclops and Jean Grey, right? He's just a time traveling person because somebody killed his family. But I would love to see him come back and do that stuff. Josh Brolin's like a gift to Marvel at this point, so we'll take it. Yeah. Do we do something kind of fun where you look at him and be like, "Hey, you look familiar"? Cause what if Thanos shows up and then Cable comes from behind and kills him? So you replace like the CGI Josh. Like, I think that would be even more funnier than that. But we'll see. We'll see more as that we get to those multiversal movies. But Deadpool 3 coming. Currently on release schedule for next summer. Could be later, but. Very, very excited to dive into that. This is news I just dropped in here right before we recorded. What If Season 2 is coming eventually, but the first toys are showing Bill Foster, played by Lawrence Fishburne, dressed up as Marvel's Goliath. We never saw him get into the suit in Ant-Man 2, and then he never returned in Ant-Man 3, so it sounds like they're going to use him in possibly some of these other movies. Maybe it's show. Possibly a flashback episode where we kind of see him back in the day operating, or maybe it's what if this Avengers battle fight was happening and the Lawrence Fishburne decided to get into the mix. Well, yeah, hopefully it's just maybe what if Hank Pym never became Ant-Man, right? Or something like that. It's either way, it looks cool. It's essentially just a blue and white Ant-Man suit, which matches the Goliath color from the comic books. In the comic books, Goliath was, I think, killed by a robotic Thor in Marvel's Civil War. So maybe they're doing a cartoon accurate Civil War, if you will. That'd be wild. Yeah. So and then you can see his belt forming the G, Mike. I just realized that on the artwork there, his belt forms a G for Goliath. So. I believe there's no confirmation. There might be confirmation. I think Lawrence Fishburne will come back and voice this because he's voicing a character in Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur currently on Disney XD for Marvel. So I can see him doing this. But that looks cool. So you can check that out in our show notes if you want to take a peek at that. Big kind of some swings were taken this week by Bob Iger, Mike. One of them was a jab at Marvel's TV shows. Absolutely. And all those TV shows up through, well, most of them, right, actually, were under Bob Chapek's direction, or like greenlit under his rule. So he's starting to take some jabs at it. But one of the biggest rumors kind of coming out of this is that the next special presentation for this will be the last one for Disney Plus. and the content of this actually being to focus on connections between WandaVision and the Agatha Coven of Chaos TV shows, with a series called The Witch's Road.
I mean, I wasn't expecting that. If I'm not necessarily saying this was Chapek's idea, right? He's just the man at the top, but I think we kind of like the special presentations, right?
Yeah, I think there was no bad feedback from special presentations, right? And I think that's it. But I don't know what the cost and numbers were on a 45-minute special, right? What's the cost and the numbers on that for a streaming thing, right? Like, obviously, new content on streaming isn't working for them. So is this like something on the chopping block? But critically, everybody loved these.
Yeah, and also, like, I don't think that's the thing you should measure the success of a special presentation off of, because it was, like, the most experimental thing Marvel's ever done, right? And I think it worked out great. But, if you're worried about maybe a global audience kind of not jiving with it, well, that's fine. Maybe make your next special presentation just kind of more of, like, an extended classic, short film style thing, right? Yeah, exactly. So, I liked them because it was just kind of a way to, like, you can ease us into a new character that maybe you don't, put all of your effort into making a feature film for.
Well, yeah. So Man-Thing was great. I think the Guardians holiday special was really fun and gave a highlight to some characters and set up literally the Guardians right before we met them again in Guardians 3, right? Kind of give an idea of where they were. I love them both, and I think this is the wrong idea to take away from that. But if they're looking to cut costs, I can see why they would cut costs here as well. But The Witch's Road is apparently from the comic books of the Scarlet Witch book in 2016 that they take this from. It's a plane of existence only sorcerers can travel in the comic books. So my guess this might be a way to, if they want to bring Elizabeth Olsen back, like maybe she went there instead of being crushed at the end of Doctor Strange. Maybe they're setting up what the effects were on sorcerers after her death, and that kicks off. Maybe this kicks off Coven of Chaos, or does it follow Coven? I don't know. I don't know where this lives, but it sounds very interesting regardless of what they go with it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't exactly say we got a concrete explanation in Doctor Strange 2 of what the difference between witches' magic is compared to sorcerer's magic. They kind of just, I wouldn't say ignored it, but they were just like, oh, she's got her magic, we got our own, and we have to combat against it, and she's going to use this ancient book to juice herself up, and we got to stop her from getting this book. So, I mean, they seem to be drawing a line that witches' magic is the same as sorcerer magic, at least kind of in concept, but it seems like maybe the difference is kind of like just cultural origins, right? Sorcerers from the people that dealt with magic on the East kind of turned into sorcery, whereas maybe if you were in other parts, it kind of turned into witchcraft a little bit. Maybe this will kind of explain it a little bit.
And I think to me, it's more like, again, wizards and stuff like that. They're borrowing, like, for me, it's like one is trained magic and witches are more, I guess, not chaos, but like unhindered. Like we can pull it from any plane we want to and use it in any way. We're not following the rules you are to make. That's why Wanda's was like chaos magic. It looked weird, and Doctor Strange was like patterns and intricate designs. I guess I don't know, but if they decide to do a one shot on magic users, that's fine with me. I think the thing is, right, the takeaway from this is they're going to cut it, but I think for us we both like it and we want more of these one shots. I would take more. I would take 2 one shots and a series a year rather than 2 series or 3 series a year. If I was gonna cut it, I think you can focus something more in 45 minutes than you can across 8 episodes right now, and tell a pretty good story. Maybe go to an hour. Hell, go to a 1 hour special presentation. Doesn't quite meet movie standards. Doesn't quite meet short film standards for releases. Do that and save your money across 8 episodes. Right? I think that's the best way to do it. But who knows? The Marvels, the next movie for coming up for Marvel Studios in November. Reports are that a new trailer will be attached to the Haunted Mansion at the end of this month on July 28th. So we should expect this online before then, Mike. We might be talking about it beforehand. But one of the cool things that came out of this is the Funko reveals this week. And the link I just shared is broken, obviously, because they took it down. But it shows like Nick Fury holding a Fleur kitten, if you will. That's what they're called, Fleur kittens. Instead of a Fleur
kitten. The cats with the tentacles.
Yes, but like a baby one, so it's a Fleur kitten.
Oh, a floor kitten.
Yeah. But like there was more with that. But they are like the thing about Funkos is if the Funkos are coming, that usually means a trailer's coming. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fun here. If I can find, I can't. They ripped this off the internet, Mike. I can't even find these new these images. But if I find it, I will relink it in there. But I'm excited to watch another trailer for this.
Well, by July 28th, Secret Invasion will be wrapped up. So, if there's going to be any more of a direct connection of explaining Fury being up there or down here, they might have to wait for that show to wrap up.
Yeah. I think the again, they don't have a Comic-Con panel right this year, and if they did, it would have been canceled at this point. But yeah, there's we're not waiting on a big reveal. We're just waiting on, I guess, a good time for Disney to attach their trailers in theaters for this stuff. So we'll keep you guys posted. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, when it drops over the next couple weeks. Another this is a teaser trailer, if I've ever seen a teaser trailer, for a new Black Panther video game announcement coming from Cliffhanger Games, who are known for they have people who made the Shadow of Mordor games, right, from for Lord of the Rings, some of the best games there. Some of these developers are from Halo Infinite and a bunch of other games, right? But big studio names coming together to make this and announce this Black Panther game, which is to quote and unquote build an expansive and reactive world that empowers players to experience what it's like to take on the mantle of Wakanda's protector, the Black Panther. And Mike, if that says Far Cry to you, is pretty much going to be Far Cry, but with Black Panther, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that this is a pattern, right? I hope Marvel sees the astronomical success that Insomniac has had with the Spider-Man property and go, we can do this too. We're not just going to shell out the IP anymore for just movies based on, or games based on movies. Let's make our own standalone, rich AAA worlds and make some good games here. And and patience is the game, right? Whenever it comes to these things, we're not going to see this Black Panther game for probably maybe 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So I'm excited though. I think that'll be a fun play set, right? Because I'm sure there'll be some projectiles in some sense, but there's no first-person shooting happening here, right? It's all going to be like combat and brawling.
I'm pretty sure they said it's third person. Third person action adventure. Obviously, I expect to level up. Maybe pick your suits, pick your abilities as you kind of level up and do this. Probably a lot of focus on stealth as well.
Yeah.
In a jungle environment. I'm excited to see it. This is fun. I think some of the coolest parts of the Avengers game, which you mentioned they haven't made any games based on their movies in a very long time, so that's good. But the Avengers game, best part was the Black Panther expansion, which is very short-lived. The other Guardians of the Galaxy game was really, really good. I don't know if you got a chance. Did you play that, right? A little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really, really fun game. We've got Spider-Man 2 coming out this fall. We've got Black Panther. They announced that Captain America game from World War II. Remember that a couple months ago? Wolverine also works at Insomniac. So it sounds like they're looking to create some AAA standalone games kind of going forward, right? None of the online multiplayer, none of the persistent worlds or live service kind of games. These all very much scream single player story focused games kind of coming forward. The Mordor games actually had a really cool feature called the Nemesis system. I don't know if you remember that. Whereas if you if you were beat by an orc or if you defeated one, they could come back later. If they beat you, they come back stronger. They rise the ranks, so they're stronger to fight later. And if you beat them, they come back missing an arm or an eye later for
cool.
a vengeance thing. So it was really cool to see some of the enemies that you already fought come back, and they have dialogue with that. Now the Nemesis system is I think it was patented by Warner Brothers, sadly, but knowing how those Shadow games played out, I can expect some pretty expansive maps and some pretty cool features going forward. Black Panther has a spirit realm, and the Shadow games let you go into the Wraith realm, like the Ring Wraith realm. So that'll be pretty fun to maybe use some of your ancestral powers to do that. So I'm excited for that. Love it. New trailer also for Blue Beetle dropped this week. The final trailer, as it will. I don't know when this movie's coming out, Mike. I'm going to be honest. We probably have it written down on our official release.
I think it's August.
Yeah, I feel like it's next month as well. This It's there's nothing against this movie, Mike. I'm just not sold yet on seeing it. I don't know about you. This kind of gives you a little bit more of like, hey, here's the abilities. Hey, here's a villain you're gonna have to fight who's just a red version of your suit.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
I mean,
I
like.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I guess I'll just like say it again, and I don't think this trailer changed the fact. It's like I think this could be a good movie. Seems like it has a lot of heart. I like the main actor. Looks like they got like a fun cast going on here, but it does just kind of scream like overused origin story.
A lot
right?
of lot of tropes here that you've seen over and over again. Yeah.
Like reluctant hero goes to learn the ropes. There's like a computer yelling at him of how to do things. Like it just kind of feels like a amalgamation of like, Iron Man and like some other like, suddenly superhero, a little bit of Ant-Man thrown in there, right? With the technologically color shifted villain at the end. So I'm not saying like, you can't, every story's been retold, right? There's nothing original anymore because we've hit everything. But yeah, I do just kind of get those vibes of just like, I've seen this movie 1,000 times already.
Yeah. I think to me, it was his grandma with the minigun at the ending. I kind of rolled my eyes at a little bit. I'm like, they're like, oh, Grandma, why do you have the minigun? And then she starts shooting. I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna do this. This was made for streaming and it shows, but it doesn't mean I can't prejudge it. I'm just like, I've got to reset my expectations. What we know and what's actually happening here can be different. But I will still go see it. But I'm just not like, I'm not dying to watch this currently, right? We know this character will appear again in the DCU, but we're gonna talk a little bit more about what the DCU means going forward. So I'm sure, why not watch the trailer, let us know what you guys think, and if you're going to see it next month, August 18th. I just looked on the the YouTube link, so check that out. But speaking of the DCU, James Gunn has officially said DC Studios movies and canon start with Superman Legacy. So knowing Blue Beetle is a character in the DCU and it's not the start of the DCU for DC Studios, what the hell is this, right? Like this is a lot of confusion coming from me, and I usually try to stay with this. I'm a little more on top of it than most people. So is Blue Beetle in this? Like he is, but is this movie essential to watch now? Because
I think it's just like what we saw with Shazam and probably even The Flash. It's just going to depend on the audience, right? If nobody gets their butts and seats for Blue Beetle, if the critical reception isn't good, if there's just not like an overwhelming demand for more Blue Beetle, right, in this form, like James Gunn has no reason to do it, right? He has this daunting task of rebooting the DC universe for like fourth, sixth time, right? And it's just like you can't do that with things that like you have to shoehorn in. So I think that's what's happening.
So I think the problem with that is he can only say that so many times, like, oh, if it's not working, we can't do it, before the whole thing just crumbles down, right? Like you have to actually, whether it's good or bad, stick to something. Despite what we say about Zack Snyder, he at least stuck to his guns the whole way through. Everything he did, he thought he was doing the best in the world, and I applaud that about him, whether we agree with him or not. But like James, like if they're like, well, we if it doesn't make money, we don't need to include him. Just you can't say that for everything going forward. Like, well, if Superman doesn't make money, we're not going to include him, kind of thing. Like. Pick a point and stick to it. I think this is now causing me even more confusion because we have The Suicide Squad, which is James Gunn's movie, right? That can be wiped out of canon, that's fine. But then he's also doing a Waller TV series, which is tied to the Peacemaker show, and they're doing a Peacemaker season 2. So none of those are involved now. Like how does this all work at the end of the day? Is it going to be parallel stuff? The legacy things that he didn't I guess partially touch, and then the new stuff. How will they bring these together, you think, at the end? Because like I'm even now confused, and like I said, I try this. I try to be nice to them.
We also have to remember there's also Matt Reeves' Batman just floating around out there. We got another Joker movie coming out. So I mean, maybe they are just holding true to what they said a while ago, right before James Gunn was even hired. We have different verses out there happening. The number one goal here is to make money above all else. So we'll see. I mean, man, talk about pressure on that Superman legacy. That's got to be such a good movie that we want to see more and more and more. And I would say it will be almost unfairly judged in a way because nobody had all of those expectations for the first Iron Man movie, right? It just happened. Yeah. They saw a nugget of potential there, and they moved forward and they built on it.
Well, it was a C-list character, right? Nobody knew who Iron Man was really at that point. Everybody knows who Superman is. Superman has had a legacy since Christopher Reeves. We've got George Reeves before him, but Christopher Reeves movies, right? Like everyone is riding those expectations still. Like that changed the world. You believe a man will fly. Well, movies have changed since then. But absolutely. So let's go ahead and jump in. Superman Legacy. To meet those expectations, James Gunn is adding more cast. We already know about Superman Lois Lane's casting. Now we're going to talk about him adding his buddy, his pal, his regular cohort, Nathan Fillion, as the new Guy Gardner / Green Lantern in this movie, Mike. We're starting with the Green Lantern in the DC universe rather than hopefully wishfully adding them in later, like Zack Snyder did in one cut of his Justice League. Isabel Merced as Hawk Girl. So we're instead of Hawk Guy from Black Adam, we're getting Hawk Girl. Edie Gathegi. He was in X-Men First Class. He was Darwin. I don't know if you remember him. He was killed by like swallowing an explosion in First Class.
Yeah, kind of sounds familiar. Yeah.
As Mr. Terrific, which has recently been seen in the Flash TV series. So that's three known superheroes added in there pretty quick, right? Like that's not too bad. Like those are pretty.
Yeah, James Gunn was doing his typical thing, which I tell him to never do, as he's just on social media too much. But I would say this maybe turned out well in his favor.
Well, this came from Variety first, one of those. But he agreed. He said it was true over the other.
Yeah, but there was some just rando in the replies that was just like, "Hey, James Gunn, this makes me nervous that you're trying to set up these heroes already. You're shoehorning in them just to build out a universe," which I was just like, you're just going to talk to somebody like that on Twitter, right? You don't even know the man. Yeah. It just felt like kind of rude, but he responded and he was just like, these characters are important to the plot of the story. I would never shoehorn a character in just to set them up. Like the Superman and Lois Lane are still very explicitly and clearly the protagonist of the film, and if anything else is in the movie, it's because it needs to be there. So I was like, okay, this is one of the few times where I'm okay with him kind of like chiming in.
Well, the thing is, if they stick to what they've said, where the authority, like this is a world full of superheroes already. Every other Superman movie, he's been the first superhero, right, that we've seen. Mm-hmm. So if this is a world full of superheroes, this is okay to have established people that we know in this world. We'll have the authority. We'll have Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Mr. Trick. Maybe they're part of the authority in this universe. I don't know. It is fine to have established heroes in a universe when Superman shows up, because obviously in this, that's what the story they're telling, and that he is not the first one to show up, right? He may be the first most powerful person to show up, but he is not the first existing, and that's okay. That's okay to do that. You can jump in the middle of a universe and have it be lived in already, right? You don't have to start sterile and fresh. But the other character they announced is actor Anthony Kerrigan as Metamorpho. And I don't know Metamorpho from the comic books. I've never read one with him in it, but I know his look if you look him up. He's got like a white face and upper body, and then like his body starts splitting into different colors, like purple and orange and other things down it. But apparently he's able to transmutate elements in his body into various forms, taking those properties on as powers. So he sounds like a Super Skrull, if you will, or an Absorbing Man from Marvel.
Yeah, there was a character like that in one of the later seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if I remember right.
Absorbing Man, yeah.
Yeah, but the actor, the very lovely NoHo Hank from Barry on HBO. Everybody loved that performance in the show. A standout for sure. So I'm glad to see him getting like a big role, big payday, big notoriety. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And he's also he's got history in that TV show Batman Gotham. He was in Gotham for several seasons as well. So he's got history with DC and stuff like that. But I don't. Metamorpho he looks like a villain, but he is a hero. By the way, that's what I wanted to. That's why he's listed out separately. So, are these my thing is like maybe these are the quote unquote authority, right? There's no Justice League in this world. The authority is not historical authority characters. Maybe it's these characters, or maybe I don't know. I'm excited to get into again, like I said, a world that's lived in with superheroes and abilities and people already, rather than. Oh my gosh, Superman landed on Earth and now we have to follow him until more people show up later.
I mean, I know it's not classic Superman origin, which we've told a lot of times already, but if Superman is growing up in a world where superheroes already exist, I would love to see that maybe incorporated in his personality or origin a little bit, right? You know, he grows up, he finds out one day that he has superpowers, and then he's, you know, watching the news and he sees like heroes out there doing things, and that spurs him maybe to be a hero as well. I feel like you can't just ignore the fact that those things would cross paths. So, and that could be kind of fun. Like maybe Superman grows up, moves to the city, meets like a hero that he grew up with, and he's like, hey, I'm a hero too. You know, that it's not classic origin, but like it could be a fun original shift to the character.
Yeah, and how was he? Yeah, right. How did he grow up affected by those things? Whereas every other time he's not. So yeah, I'm excited to see that as well. You know, like you said, a lot of pressure, a lot of stuff going on, but I don't think we're going to get any more casting announcements until the strike is over for almost anything. So we'll just kind of buckle up and see what news does flow through on this stuff. But Superman Legacy coming out 2 years. We got our first official trailer for Wonka, Mike, and let me tell you how disappointed I am that this isn't like a Joker version of Willy Wonka's origin story, but in fact it's a goofy, young Timothy Chalamet playing the younger Willy Wonka, as he's starting to get into the chocolate cartel, it looks like a little bit, or and he gets his first Oompa Loompa in a jar, which seemed to be much smaller than the Oompa Loompas from the movies.
Yeah, I like the shift. Who was Hugh Grant? Hugh Grant. Yeah, Hugh Grant. I was about to say Hugh Laurie, and it's like that'd be funny too. As like a small little Oompa Loompa that fits in a jar. That's kind of like a fun. I don't know if originally that's how small they were in the original Rogue Doll story, but either way, it's cute. The thing that sold it for me, Chris, and you already know what it is.
Yeah,
it's when they say from the director of Paddington, and it's like, yes, literally, I didn't even know that was happening.
So everybody, I think everybody in the world was like, "What the fuck is this trailer?" And then it's like from the director, and everyone's like, "Okay, you know what? All right, we'll give him a chance. He's got like the 2 highest rated movies on Rotten Tomatoes. We'll give him a chance."
Yeah, and then it helps too with the tonal part of the movie, right? It's like it's whimsical, it's a little silly. You know, this town is based in reality, but it doesn't like exist in a way of like, oh, no daydreaming, not allowed. It's kind of like an authoritarian chocolate city, which is hilarious. I'm not like a Timothy Chalamet stan in any way. I don't like really put him up on a pedestal, and I haven't really experienced a lot of Chalamet
because you've not watched Dune yet.
In my Hollywood lifestyle, right? But his performance in this trailer seems a little not odd. It's not like I'm saying Willy Wonka shouldn't be odd, but it almost seems like monotone in a way. Like I don't know. It's very strange.
In Dune, this is not how he is in Dune. He's quite opposite in Dune. But if you go watch have you watched the French Dispatch with Wes Anderson?
Yeah. I have seen.
It's identical to his performance in it. The way he intonates his words and like kind of like talks a little bit is like his French Dispatch persona.
A little bit. Yeah, so maybe that's just the DNA of Chalamet.
Yeah.
But this could be fun. It comes out Christmas. It's obviously a family movie for people to go check out. It's going to make everyone want chocolate.
I can't wait till all the gimmicky snacks they're coming out with over the next 6 months to release along with this. But it'll be fun. You know, we're going to obviously see the origin of like, what was it, the fizzy bubbles or whizzing bubbles stuff where he like sends them off in the ground. So, you know, this is essentially Footloose, but chocolate. You have to either follow their chocolate rules or you're outcast. And Willy Wonka comes in and he does his own little thing here. So I am excited to see it. I will give it a chance, but I'm not really sold yet on what I've watched. I did see, and for those, may take offense to this, it was hilarious, Mike. Someone had used AI to transpose a previous president's face onto the Oompa Loompa and use that instead with the same exact dialogue, and that was pretty funny. So I'm excited to watch more of this. I'm excited to see this. But and let's shift gears into a trailer of things that just continually kick you while you're down, Mike, and that's Twisted Metal. The new full trailer for the upcoming Peacock show based on the PlayStation game series has released, and I wish they hadn't even called this Twisted Metal at this point. Like, it doesn't seem like the game at all. It's really more of a wink and nod at the camera kind of show. It feels like, right? Like, we're telling jokes and we know it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But I didn't actually realize all the actors that were in this until now, right? We knew Anthony Mackie and Will Arnett, but I did not know Stephanie Beatriz, Nev Campbell, and Tom Hayden Church were in the show as well until this trailer.
Yeah, very, very strange, right? At least we're getting more. It's a full trailer. It's not just a clip of Anthony Mackie just like getting slammed up against slot machines in Vegas, right?
And singing the thong song.
Yeah, it's like this definitely does not alleviate my perception of cheapness, right? This does feel like it's barely crossing the budget finish line, right? Of like, we need. Luckily, I guess it's dystopian in a way where they can just shoot everything like The Walking Dead does, just out in the middle of nowhere.
How many explosion plugins do you think they bought on this? Like maybe the same one a couple times, but
yeah, I mean, you can tell the success of this show is clearly riding off of whether it's going to be funny or not, right? And I will just go ahead and say comedy traditionally is not always best presented in a trailer for anything, right? Even like the funniest movies you've ever watched in your entire life probably had weird trailers, or you don't have any of the context for the jokes or everything. So like, weirdly enough, I can't tell if this humor is working for me or not, right? Because like, I could see some of these same lines maybe coming in a different world or out of a different actor and getting it. So like, a very strange experience watching this trailer for me. Like, I can't tell if this is going to be hysterical or going to be the cringiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Now tell me, the trailer says that this is from the writers of Zombieland, right? It feels like a when you Swede something, right? A Sweded version of Zombieland, like, because
yeah, I can see that.
The jokes are there, like the same setup. Oh, the guy's, he's acting like a hard ass, but he's like, he gave you guns with no bullets in it, and he's like, oh, it's never happens before. I'm like, I'm just not there. I'm just not sold yet, and I wish it wasn't Twisted Metal. Like, it's not Twisted Metal. This is just essentially some guy driving from A to B to deliver a package, right, for someone, and they could literally picked any other IP or title and called it that. Twisted Metal just happens to be, we want to use Sweet Tooth from the game.
Yeah, and that's all we saw. I was hoping to see like Axel. He's kind of the coolest looking Twisted Metal character, like bonded to his machine. Maybe that's like a season finale reveal or something like that.
Spectre, the guy who shoots ghost, like the car. Yeah. He's like the most normal looking guy who shoots like ghost haunting missile. Like, there should be cool stuff here, but it's not.
Yeah. No, I mean, no disrespect to Anthony Mackie. I think he has a fine career ahead of him, right? I don't know if he can play funny, right? I've seen him in different roles in different movies, and I'm not saying like he's not effectively reading the lines, right? Something about him is just not funny to me. Like, he's in like
he's trying too hard. He's trying way too hard.
Yeah, he's in like a Seth Rogen like Christmas movie. I forgot what it's called, but it also has Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it, and that's supposed to be comedic as well. It's like, I don't know what it is about him. It's just doesn't read comedic to me. So I don't know. Maybe this will prove me wrong. But yeah, weird trailer. Go watch it. Let us know what you think. Very polarizing.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely watch the first episode, but it's all gonna depend on that if I go any further down this Twisted Metal show. However, it has been bringing back the original games to the PlayStation Network. If you have a PlayStation 5, you can download the old games on the PlayStation Network now. It's fun. New photo this weekend from Ed Boon showing off Carl Urban as Johnny Cage on set there. I'm used to him only from The Boys, right? Like with his beard and his thing, but this is he's got his Hollywood hair on there and he's shaved, ready to do his Johnny Cage stuff. He got the shirt and everything.
Can you believe it? Carl Urban, a famous actor, putting on sunglasses and becoming Johnny Cage, which is essentially an actor with sunglasses.
He's like a washed up actor though. In the games, I'll give him that. He can play, I guess self-skewering a little bit. So I think Carl Urban's fun. He's kind of had his I guess urban renaissance, if you will. I don't think you could say urbisance just yet, because I feel like you kind of have to go away and come back, where I would say he's been kind of more like a slow rolling boil that's getting hotter, not in a bad way, right? It's just like I feel like he's still cooking, he's still heating up. He's like the master of like cult movies, but never the star of them, so hopefully he can come through. But he really does a great job on The Boys. We always talk about how much we like that show, and I'm excited to see this in Mortal Kombat 2, which is probably no longer filming at this point. So until everything's settled with the strikes, but I'm excited to see Mortal Kombat 2, and this is, I guess, our first official thing, because Ed Boon saying he's there, like we've never really got any word. So yeah, I don't know. Mortal Kombat 1 also coming out in a month or two on game consoles. So check that out. But speaking of The Boys, we got a first it wasn't a trailer, it was an Amazon Prime, I guess, teaser with some clip from Gen V, The Boys spinoff, and they confirmed that is coming in September on Amazon Prime, Mike, with this spinoff. So that means we're not getting The Boys again. We talked about this; they're not giving us a release date until the strike's over. But Gen V is coming to Prime in September, and is set at the America's only college exclusively for young and adult superheroes, run by Vought International. So probably gonna be The Boys, but on a college level ish.
I mean, I hope it's good. I feel like spinoffs are hard to do, right? I mean, I feel like the only spinoff that ever comes to my head when it comes to television is like Frasier, right? And that was after Cheers has already ended, right? It's just hard to carry over an audience, recapture, reduplicate the magic, but make it original. It's just a tall order, right? But you do have the advantage of you have a built-in audience ready to go and ready to love it.
Well, the thing about this one is it's not quite a prequel. It's not a sequel. It doesn't have to involve the main actors. It's like, hey, this is a college run by like a superhero. Like imagine The Boys, but when you were like in college rather than full-grown adults doing it. So I imagine obviously some depravity and some other things going on in the show, just to kind of lean in at boys' gruesomeness. But like, if no one else is coming over from the main show, is it really worth watching? Like, is anything going to matter here? Is it going to stand out? Is there going to be repercussions, if you will? To me, it's more like The Walking Dead right now, right? The Walking Dead has fractured itself into how many shows?
Too many.
The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead. There's the Rick and not Rick. There's Rick and Michonne. There's a Daryl Dixon show, and then there's the Negan and Maggie show. So I'm like, okay, those last three I get because they are like, hey, our main actors are so big we can make our own shows with them. But like Fear the Walking Dead is like this. It just runs in parallel with some occasional crossover. So I don't see the desire to watch it, but hopefully it is good. It can stand alone on its own. For this.
I can use this as an opportunity to say I saw a trailer in my feed, because I still apparently am in the Call of Duty Warzone algorithm. And I don't play the game anymore, but they're doing like a boys crossover where it's not just skins, but the Temp V is in the game. So it kind of made me think of, what was that kind of GTA clone, but you had superpowers and you could jump around the city.
Oh my gosh, what is that called?
They had that called? There was a couple of them. Those were fun, but it kind of made me think of that. Of like you kind of have like this grounded, realistic gameplay, and then now all of a sudden you can like leap tall bounds, and I was like that could be fun.
Yeah. The cool part is, I don't think Homelander's good for Call of Duty, nor Starlight, two of the skins, but the other one's Black Noir, and Black Noir would be a hell of a cool, like, he looks like a Call of Duty skin anyway, right? So I'm like, yeah, you can play Black Noir in those movies. What is that game called? It's not San Andreas, Vice Van. I don't know. I'll think of it later. But absolutely. But yeah, Gen V coming September, Amazon Prime. So we've got some more content coming this fall. But that is our show for the week. That is it. We've covered the gamut of things we could cover, and hopefully we get some more good news this week, right? Coming down the pipeline with, hopefully the strike gets resolved and we can get some more news coming forward. But if people don't know what you're up to, what you're doing this week, where can they find you at, buddy?
Well, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, I suppose.
I don't like Threads yet. I haven't found a reason.
You can read my my webcomic at liferewardsrisk.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, same as Threads. If you're using that, I don't know how to use it yet, like very well. The algorithm's like throwing me all over the place. Don't quite get it, but you can do that. You can also find me on any video game system under the same name. But if people want to know more about what we're doing, listen to our shows that we're gonna be doing every week. We are not on strike. We're gonna be like, we're like the opposite of a strike on the show, because we're gonna spread the news of why these people need to get paid every week, Mike. But where can they find that out?
Yeah, they can find that on superheroslate.com. That is the home for all things Superhero Slate. We got our awesome upcoming release calendar there, TBD, right? A lot of those dates are probably going to be changing soon, but we got a lot of movies coming out soon, and hopefully we'll be talking about them if I can drag my ass to a movie theater, right? But you can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to fine podcasts. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. I feel like I need to change this end section of the podcast. We are not anti-social media, but we are just like, who needs it anymore?
Well,
just come here to the source. Listen to our voices.
Whatever.
This is as social as it gets. You're hearing us.
Yeah, really. Like, I don't. You can. Yeah, you're following us on here. Share us with a friend, right? Be a super fan, but also leave us a review in your podcatcher app of choice.
Yeah,
that's really all we need.
Maybe that's what I do. I ditched the social handles here because you're all competent folks. You can already assume we're on social media, and it's probably not hard to find our handles. I don't need to spell it out. Yeah. So go to your favorite podcast app, leave us a review. We love that. And you can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We occasionally make merch. That's kind of fun.
I'm literally wearing one of our shirts right now. It's one of my favorite shirts. They have really good fits, and they don't shrink in the wash. So
yeah, and we love our super fans. So if you want to be a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we'll be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.